Hello and welcome to the News9 Plus show on the world's first news and current affairs OTT platform, News9 Plus. Phantom, an Indian Army assault dog, was killed in the ongoing Jammu anti-terror operation yesterday. Now he's the fifth Indian Army canine to die in the line of duty in the last 2 years. Even as Pakistan steps up its proxy war by sending more terrorists into Jammu and Kashmir, the Indian Army has increased its deployments of assault canines. Close to 50% of the Army's dog units are now deployed in J&K. We hear that. There are hero dogs like Axel, Zoom, Kent, and now Phantom that have drawn enemy fire, protected our soldiers, taken a bullet for their best friends, man. They're man's best friends in every true sense of the term. But today we are not just talking about these brave dogs, these brave assault dogs who've taken bullets for the people they love. But we're also talking about the men behind them, the dog handlers, and how important they are in the training and the raising of these dog units. And joining me to discuss this with me is my colleague Deepak Badana, who's traveled to Meerut to document the Indian Army's canine force. Deepak, welcome to the News9 Plus show.
Thank you, sir.
You did this fabulous interview of some of the key people behind our dog squads in Meerut recently. Tell us what you actually learned from that trip to the canine squads where they're trained, where they're raised, the nursery. I saw you playing with those puppies and watching them actually grow into assault dogs.
It was quite an interesting experience. So, for instance, while most people don't know about the remount in veterinary corps,
yes,
it may actually be one of the oldest formations of the Indian Army, dating back to the mid-18th century.
From the time when horses and mules were very important.
So, back in the day, RVC was in charge of, breeding mules, horses for the Indian Armed Forces.
Right.
Today, they've diversified. So, it's no longer equines, but they now also have canines. And they've got a very exciting new section that focuses exclusively on avians. Right. That is hawks, which are trained to take down drones.
We'll come to that later. But Deepak, this is very interesting what you just said. The fact that how in the past they were focused on horses and mules, and now they're seeing a resurgence in their importance with the fact that assault dogs have become really important to the Indian Army's counter-terror operations. So tell us how these dogs are really trained, and you know what you saw firsthand in Meerut. How are they trained to do the kind of stuff that Phantom did in these anti-terror operations, where he took a bullet for his handler?
So there are essentially 2 or 3 different types of dogs that RVC produces. When I say type, it's not the breeds, but the functions that they're supposed to perform. So you have the sniffer dogs, but then you have
sniffer
the guard
dogs. Are usually
these are largely Labradors, which are going out to look for IEDs, which will be checking, say, vehicles at checkpoints for explosives and whatnot. Then the second kind is the guard dogs.
Right.
Now these are animals which are tasked with protecting key areas.
Right.
So German Shepherd is the
preferred guard dog.
Yeah.
Right.
So for instance, you have say a compound that you need to secure. You'll probably have a guard dog stationed right at the very door.
Right.
Right. Then there is this third and the newest category of animals that they're training, which are called the assault canines.
Right.
So these are animals which are born and raised for combat.
Right. And they are the Belgian Malinois.
These are the Belgian Shepherds.
Right.
So what an assault canine does is that it actually leads the combat.
Right.
In tough environments such as, say, jungle warfare, where you don't know where the enemy is, or for example, urban warfare, one of the most trickiest of situations.
Yes.
So these dogs are force multipliers.
Yes.
You have to understand the benefits that the armed forces accrue from, a single individual animal. For instance, to begin with, and this is probably the most underrated part, is that the psychological, support that a single animal can provide to the whole unit.
Yes.
It actually does a lot for the morale of the troops.
You mean it's like a dog that provides comfort to the whole unit by just being there?
By just being there, the mere presence does that.
Right.
The second thing is, now, for instance, you're engaged in urban combat. Now the enemy knows that there is only one entrance to that building.
Yes.
And all the enemy guns, everything is pointed at that very entrance. Specific small opening.
Yes.
The fact of the matter is that the first person to enter the room will probably die.
Right.
Now in this case, these assault canines provide you with the shock and awe you need
Yes.
to overcome the enemy in such a situation.
Right.
These dogs are given protective gear. They're given Kevlar jackets. They've got GoPros.
Yes.
They've got cameras through which the handler can see what is happening.
Right.
And the dog actually performs the first part of the operation, which is
Yes.
a rush, headlong rush into combat.
Right.
And at this point, the shock of seeing this canine ferociously running towards
Yes.
you actually distracts a lot of the say enemy combatants
Yes.
from focusing on soldiers.
Right.
So while the fact is that while
So they're basically drawing the enemy fire, as I said.
drawing
it's-
the enemy
yeah.
fire, and more than that, see, these dogs are trained not just to distract the opponent,
Right.
but to actually disarm them,
Disarm them.
possibly kill them if need be.
Right.
But the dogs are trained to go attack the enemy,
Yeah.
take apart their arms for that matter,
Right.
and actually bring those arms back to their handlers.
Recover the arms and bring them back.
In the
I've seen
case-
those training videos that
in
you
the
did
case
with
of
the dogs.
Zoom,
Yes.
Zoom actually rushed into a room wherein there were 3 militants armed with AK-47 rifles.
Right.
That poor animal, he suffered, I think, 3 to 4 different bullet injuries. His jaw was shattered,
My
his
God.
legs,
So,
wounded.
my question then would be that do you believe that the terrorists would deliberately be targeting attack dogs because they face the greatest danger from the assault canines
Oh,
and
certainly.
they possibly shoot at them
Certainly.
first?
Yeah. Because again, as I was saying, that morale thing, it also has a flip side.
Right.
So an injury to an animal, actually does a lot of harm to the unit's morale as well.
Right. So,
that's
you
there.
target the assault dog and, you
And the
impact
fact is that when it
unit's
comes
morale.
to tracking the enemy,
Right.
nothing will compare to a canine.
Right.
The canine will be faster than you. It has better senses of hearing.
Absolutely, I've seen
Yeah.
them move, and it's incredible the kind of speeds that they're able to do, and literally climb up horizontal walls.
Oh yeah, they could easily climb, say, walls up to say 7 feet easily.
Yes. But Deepak, here's the question now. What do you think is the role of the handler? We talk a lot about the assault canines, but the role of the handler in training these dogs, staying with him, guiding him towards the enemy. How important is the human element in all of this?
See, it's a partnership between man and animal, and this is a unique bond that hasn't really changed in say
Yes.
7,000 years.
Yes.
Dogs first started working with men back in say the early 5000s.
Right.
And it's completely a 100% partnership. For instance, a handler stays with the animal throughout its service tenure.
Yes.
So should the handler and the animal be fortunate enough to survive combat for 7-8 years,
Yes.
it's that partnership which is the sole reason that it does.
It is.
The handler stays with the animal from the time that it's say 6 months old,
Yes.
when it's basic training
So he
begins.
literally rears the dog, with
But
his
there
hands.
is a very interesting aspect to this.
Yes.
Both the dog and the handler are trained as soldiers,
Right.
and it's a part of that training that should something happen to one of them,
Yes.
the operation must go on.
Right.
And it's an incredibly difficult thing to achieve with even humans, let alone a
Yes.
canine.
It's like the
Yeah.
buddy system that you have in the commando
That's
units.
true.
It's
Yeah.
an important thing, and like you mentioned, Deepak, it's a relationship that was forged more than 7,000 years back when the dogs came out of the wolves, actually came towards the human settlements and became best
And
friends
it's an
with men.
incredible
And it's
partnership
continued.
that's covered
Yes.
6 continents.
It's covered 6 continents and it continues to do so. But
Yeah.
let's listen into this very exclusive interview that you had of Lieutenant Colonel Sudhir Sharma, who's the backbone of the Indian Army's canine units.
Remount Veterinary Corps was established in 1779, and we are a 243-year-old organization. We are responsible for breeding, rearing, management, training, treatment and diagnosis about the canines and equines for the Indian Army. So we have 3 breeds of dogs that we train as of now. It's the Labrador Retrievers, the German Shepherds and the Belgian Malinois. They are trained for 9 different specialties that are predominantly grouped in 2 different genres, that is the detection work and protection work. Under detection work, we have explosive detection, mine detection, tracker dogs, infantry patrol dogs, narcotic detection dogs, we have search and rescue dogs, and we train avalanche rescue dogs. And under the protection ambit, we train the guard dogs and the assault dogs. So totally 9 specialties. Assault dog is actually an advanced version of the guard dog, whereas the guard dog can guard a premises, a security installation. At the same time, the assault dog has the purpose to go and search for the enemy in a particular area, a designated area, whether it is a jungle or a built-up area. Search and probably neutralize the enemy if required. When an assault dog attacks an enemy, it attacks with the purpose of incapacitating the enemy. So, in that chronology, if you see, the dog first advances towards the enemy with a certain speed, and then with that speed and aggression attacks the enemy. The normal the pressure that is required to break a bone is around 165 pounds, and the pressure exerted by a dog's bite is around 200 pounds. So it is much more than the pressure required to break a bone. So certainly when the dog attacks, it will definitely break the bone and shred the muscle into pieces. So the Belgian Malinois, they are medium-sized Belgian Shepherd dogs. They have very high stamina, agility, endurance, and they have superb temperament, wonderful trainability, and very high on energy always. They have a compact body, and the average body weight is around 25 to 32 kgs, and the average height is around 55 to 65 centimeters. So dogs have obviously have superior olfactory, auditory and visual acuities than the human beings. That, when coupled with their strength, stamina, agility, and obviously the world-class training that is imparted here at RVC Center and College, makes them fit for certain purpose jobs. Frankly saying, they are very friendly. To us, they are like brothers. They are as much a soldier as I am. And when we interact, we speak the language of love. And when we tell them to go, they speak the language of pain. So every pup at a very young age has to go through a puppy aptitude test. So this test actually determines their suitability or their proficiency for the jobs. So it is a battery of tests which is based on a very scientific method. We check their social dominance, their social attraction, whether they are following a person or not, and certain other things. So once we ascertain that a particular dog is suited to a particular purpose, then only we assign him that specialty. It starts at around 6 months of age, when they are put into basic obedience training, and after basic obedience training, they are put into specialized training. So what happens is, there is a set framework of training for a particular specialty, but there is no set psychology of the dog. So once a trainer receives a dog for a particular specialty, to convert him to that particular specialized canine, he has to judge his psychology and behavior, and then fine-tune the broader framework of training according to the dog, so that it is best suited for the dog to learn in a better manner, so that he can comprehend and do the job as required. See, it's a matter of sadness, and at the same time our chest fills with pride when we see the soldiers that we have trained have worked hard and lost their lives and achieved martyrdom in the field. We all feel sad, but the boy or the trainer who has trained him feels the saddest, because he has lost someone who was very near to him. And definitely everybody feels the pain in their heart.
India begins its decadal population census in 2025. It will be the first such exercise in 14 years. Now, the 2021 census was delayed by the pandemic, and the 2025 census next year comes at a very critical point in India's history. In fact, given the politics of today, it could be one of the most impactful census that India has ever conducted. It will impact every aspect of life. Population censuses do that. But given the current political climate, could Census 2025 actually create more problems than solve them? That's one reason we're calling 2025 the census minefield. And here are the 5 areas the 2025 census is going to impact. Number 1, the caste census. Number 2, delimitation of the parliamentary seats. Number 3, reservation. Number 4, redistribution of resources between the northern states and the southern states. And finally, number 5, demography. Joining me to discuss this today, our veteran journalist KV Prasad, and in the studio I have with me my colleague Brijesh Pandey. Brijesh, gentlemen, welcome to the News9 Plus show. Brijesh, I want to start by asking you this. Would the 2025 census have been any different if the BJP and the NDA had a brute majority in parliament?
It will not make much of a difference, but I think the area which is the causing a lot of political problem for the BJP
Yes.
Would be the caste census,
Right.
Because there's a lot of pressure. Its key allies, JDU,
Yeah.
TDP, and other parties, and Congress party especially, they're all pushing for caste census.
So explain to us, Brijesh, why is the caste census so contentious when it comes to the BJP? Why is the BJP very touchy about it? Allies want it, but the BJP itself is in two minds about it.
Well, it will change the way you approach, elections per se, because once the caste census is done, the real figures will come out as to
Right.
which caste has how many numbers, how much number, and that is going
And
to.
we haven't done that
and we
in
haven't done
almost
for
a century.
Almost a century. So that will completely change the way you approach a particular electorate.
Right.
The SC/ST population will change,
Yes.
or whether any XYZ, subcategories of population, which is right now not being seen as a very political heavyweight,
Right.
might turn out to be a political
have
heavyweight.
new emerging
New
caste
emerging
groups
caste
and
identities
combinations.
and subgroups.
Right.
But that is going to alter the entire electoral mathematics, and
Right.
that is the reason, if you remember, when Nitish
Right.
Kumar was in the India bloc,
Yes.
and when he raised this thing, BJP was for the first few months was very, very hesitant
Yes.
in going for it. But then immediately it realized that it will be detrimental if it is seen as opposing the caste census.
Yes.
That's why it immediately started change its track and said, no,
Right.
now we support it. But nobody will be very happy, especially the ruling party.
Yes.
The BJP will be very happy going for the caste census.
Absolutely, because it divides the core
Absolutely.
constituency of the BJP, which is the Hindu vote bank. But joining us to discuss this as well is Punam Mutreja, who's the Executive Director of the Population Foundation of India. Punam, welcome to the News9 Plus show. I want to ask you this. What, in your estimation, we've not held a population census in 14 years almost. When it's actually conducted in 2025, it will be the first in almost 14 years. Given the political climate of today and the kind of divisions along caste and community and the kind of vitiated political debate, do you see that this census could actually throw up more problems than it solves? What's your take on this?
Well, I hope not. There will be challenges that the census is going to throw up. And one of the biggest challenges is going to be the delimitation exercise. As a result of the size of the constituencies.
Right.
And their own coalition partner, a very key partner of theirs, has already hinted, though not attacked it directly, but both the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh and the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu and all Chief Ministers of political parties as well as administration across the South are going to have issues because of the expected delimitation exercise. Another thing that is going to throw up, as you see when the census data comes out, is that all religious groups, the population in India is stabilizing, it is declining. And every religious group, you'll find that, especially amongst the Muslims, the decline is going to be higher. So those who say that Muslims are going to outgrow Hindus or there is a Muslim population explosion are going to be, surprised, and their agenda will get affected. Third area where I see, problems and challenges unless we take care of the situation before we prepare well is data transparency and confidentiality, because this is the first time we're going to do a census digitally.
Right.
Second, in the context of digital data, apart from privacy issues and so on, safeguarding individuals' rights while serving collective interests will be paramount, since data will be collected via a digital app, ensuring data privacy, security to prevent breaches on manipulation will be essential. And these days, much of the issues that are raised are by the opposition and politicians. Citizens don't participate so actively except in debates like your shows.
Yes, absolutely. No, and in fact, Punam, I was just wondering what if, one of the parties asked for a recount, if they don't agree with the numbers, that could well be in the realm of possibility. But, Prasad, I was talking to Brijesh just before the show began, and I can't think of any other time in India's history when one census has the potential to open up literally so many Pandora's boxes. You have the caste census, you not only have the census, the population census, you have the caste census, you have delimitation of parliamentary seats after that, which could lead to women's reservation and so many other issues. Is 2024 really the last Lok Sabha election that we saw in this very comfortable zone that we've had 543 seats with 272 required for a simple majority? Prasad, your take.
Sandeep, you're right. In fact, all those issues that you've counted are important. We need to count the numbers. It's remember, this thing would have arrived in the turn of century in the year 2000. But then in the wisdom of Parliament and because of the political pressure brought about by the southern leadership and southern parties, governments of the southern India, it was, I would say, we kicked the can down the road. And now we are again facing the same situation, right? So we froze it for 2025 and now the time is on up. So I don't think this can be anyway delayed because these challenges will have to be faced at some point of time. I think the political leadership is pretty well aware because as far as caste census, I don't think a last word has been said yet. At least that is what the reports indicate. There is a lot of iffiness. But yes, political parties on the other side of the spectrum, opposed to the BJP, as well as some of the allies, as British counted, are rooting for caste census. So I don't think it will be beyond, the call will have to be taken at some point of time. The Congress party or some other parties have suggested to call for an all-party meeting to kind of determine various factors. That could be another way out.
Right, absolutely.
That'll help the process, if not nothing else.
Yes. And Dr. Singh joins us right now. Dr. Singh, welcome to the News9 Plus show. We were talking a little while earlier about how, the import of this population census, and it has the potential to open up so many other debates. And these are literally the debates that, Prime Minister Vajpayee kind of very deftly avoided. He kicked the can down the road, and it's inherited by Prime Minister Modi. I mean, as Prasad just pointed out, it's there's only so much you can postpone it for. But given the fact that all of these have now converged, how do you see, from your perspective, how important are the 2025? How important is the 2025 census really going to be?
Thanks a lot. Thanks for a very important question. For any country, whether it is developed country or developing country, development planning needs the trinity of data, research and policies. We cannot frame suitable policies in the absence of very accurate and precise data. That is why this census, delayed census, which would have been conducted in 2021, now it is extremely important for many reasons. You have rightly pointed out 3 important reasons. Unfortunately, all development programs in our country are doing very well, even in the absence of census data. But I am pretty sure efficiency and effectiveness of all development programs, around 38 or 39 taxi programs, government is running to improve quality of life of people. Those 2025 census is going to provide very important inputs for the success of those programs, enhance efficacy of the programs, and you can say reaching to the last person of different groups.
Yes, absolutely, Dr. Singh. You've given us the very egalitarian view of the census, and Brijesh is slightly cynical here. He has a different view on things, and it's all about how the numbers are going to be interpreted. But Brijesh, the interesting thing, we were talking about it just before the show began, about how two chief ministers have already begun raising the flag of North versus South, and these are very, very valid, concerns that they've raised. The fact that the southern states have done the right thing in, controlling their population, and now in this census they could well be penalized for that. How, increased is this debate going to actually take?
Well,
how will it be accelerated?
In the last 2024 general elections, there was a lot of talk about South versus North divide, and BJP said that Congress want to divide the country and so on and so forth. I think the real North versus South divide will come once the delimitation process starts. And because no southern state is going to take it lying down about the number, because the number is going to be so different that their political heft will lessen by a considerable margin. And this is something which nobody wants to do. That is the reason why you have Mr. Stalin, Udhanidhi Stalin, asking people to produce more children.
16,
16, so produce 16 children. This shows desperation, because you never hear them speaking these kind of things.
Of course, he meant it in jest, because
he ended in jest, but he betrayed the real anxiety which is down there.
The real anxiety that I think all the southern chief ministers
you cannot criticize them, because I completely agree with them that you cannot be penalized for following a national policy of population control. You control the population. You have the hum do hamaro do, and now you will be at a political back foot as far as
and you'll be penalized for that. And I think that's one of the reasons that the previous governments, in the center, have kind of, as Prasad said, chosen to kick the can down the road. Nobody wants to take that decision, especially when you're in a minority government that depends on every single, party for its survival. Which is why I asked you at the beginning, would the BJP have done things differently if they had a majority on its own? But clearly they don't, and now they, rely on all their allies to see them through. But there's one political party, Brijesh, that has a member of parliament from the north and possibly one from the south as well. So that party has played its cards very well. Don't you agree?
Well, absolutely. See, they don't have anything to lose. Right now, politically, they don't have any presence in Uttar Pradesh. They don't have any presence. Solid presence in Bihar and other, powerful northern states. So that is one thing which is going for them, and that is the reason why they are a big votary of caste census right now, and taking a complete U-turn of what the Congress politics has always been.
So you'll have Priyanka Gandhi from the south, Kerala, MP from Kerala, my state, and you'll have Rahul Gandhi, of course, from Uttar Pradesh. And these are the two states that they're probably looking at to target in the months ahead, and definitely in the Kerala elections in 2026. But Punam, I was just talking to Brijesh again about how this could alter politics, society, demography, everything. The whole debate changes once these numbers come out in 2025. As you were saying, it could possibly, upset some, preconceived notions that we have about certain communities growing faster than others and all of that. But, is there a way of insulating the 2025 census from all these kinds of debates? Or how can we have, for want of a different word, how can we have a secular debate around the 2025, population census?
It's not possible, especially unless we say that we are going to kick the can further, as your colleague said, on limitation.
Right.
If that happens, and there is a possibility because of coalition politics, if not coalition dharma, that this government decides to postpone delimitation, which none of us know they or have any reason to believe they will, because they benefit politically and financially. Because the finances for the southern states, allocations will go down. So without that happening, nothing, this next census is not going to be separated from the debate and politics. But I think the debate that it is unfair, not only to those who did population stabilization, but states that, you see, much before population stabilization happened, a precondition is that you invest in education and you invest in health of the people, which these states did, and also better governance. are we going to, the question to ask is not only population control, are we going to punish states that have invested in their people? I think this is room for not only protest by political leadership, but by citizens. I think the more debate we can have on this, and this can be a point of fairness and unfairness that citizens can engage with. But the problem with population issues is we never deal with the debates in a straight manner. It's always a googly. You know, it's either a Muslim card or a religious card or whatever. There is so much myth and misconception, and I'm surprised that as someone as considered visionary and clear-headed as the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, Mr. Naidu, raised the issue as aging society. Yes, aging society is going to be an important issue, but he could have said we need more investments for an aging society, which the rest of the country needs too. He could play the lead in investing in geriatric care, both health and in many, many other ways. But we never, you know, we have to be straight. We have to be honest and transparent with the discussions. Only then will we have a decent debate. Otherwise, it's going to be politics all the way. And the data which is going to guide to, as Mr. Singh, Dr. Singh said, there are 30, 40 flagship programs. Not only that, but if you look at urbanization, you know, we've urbanized without...
literally everything depends on the numbers that the census throws up. Rural, urban divide. I mean, how many, you know, people live in India's cities, which are the fastest growing in the world. Lots of, you know, cause for concern there. But, you know, it's, you know, as you were saying, that there's lots of misconceptions here. And, you know, given the fact that the root cause of all of this is conception, Brajesh, you know, it's quite prone for, you know, the misconceptions that it could possibly throw up. But Dr. Singh is smiling very broadly on this. It is going to be a very contentious issue, Dr. Singh. But, you know, Prasad, I was just discussing this about the number of seats in the Lok Sabha, right? The new parliament building caters for 888 seats in the Lok Sabha. That's a sense of what you get of the number of, you know, new seats that the new parliament, almost 300 new seats, at least 240 new seats are going to be added to this parliament. How will that completely change India's politics? Will it, as Brajesh was saying, accelerate this north-south divide where the BJP, which is seen primarily as a party of North India, plus one southern state, then gets to rule without getting the southern states on board? Of course, it has allies like Chandrababu Naidu, but it doesn't have a presence, at least not yet, in the southern states.
Yeah, politics is bound to change because the numbers, if they throw up the way they do, because one reasonable estimate was, I would say reasonable, there was a guesstimate, like for instance, UP from 80 could go up to say 130 or 140 seats. So now that's going to be a huge shift. Now remember, before we arrived at this situation, if you just jog our memory back about 8 months ago, remember this when the last Finance Commission, 15th Finance Commission tweaked the allocation with some formula, thereby kind of helping or kind of adjusting the population vis-a-vis the fund allocation. So I think, once again, I say, political party, political leadership will have to collectively put their heads down together and see what is the best course forward, because you cannot afford to not count. You have such a vast welfare measures, as Dr. Singh mentioned, so many flagship programs. We need to know, and we also need to know how to better allocate we have a small pie, so how do you cut the pie? That's important.
Right, absolutely. We have a very small pie. Speaking of which, you know, there is China, which is fast aging as well. That's the external dimension of the problem, where China's one-child policy has literally wrought havoc within their population, because now you have an increasingly aging Chinese population. And as they say, China could actually age before it grows wealthy. Dr. Singh, you know, there is this China problem as well. The one-child policy in China has wrought the kind of havoc that possibly Chairman Mao didn't anticipate back in the 70s, almost half a century ago. What is the one advantage that India has relatively when it comes to our competition, our economic competition with China? And how can we actually make this demographic dividend that people talk about a boon for a developed India?
You are absolutely right. This is another important dimension. India is likely to have benefits of demographic dividends by 2045.
Right.
After that, our benefits of demographic dividends may be eliminated.
Yes.
I'm, being a academician, not competent enough to speak about political discourse of the country.
Yes.
But this is a fact that just after independence, India has started family planning program.
Yes.
And we have started with antenatal policy.
Right.
All 5 southern states has really done well. That population, their TFR has gone below 1.8.
Yes.
Not only over population stabilization, but even all social development, sun preference, economic development, in all aspects, they have performed well. And we as an academician are not aware about our constitutional provision, but definitely whether it is the Finance Commission or it is delimitation, government should adopt some strategy if our constitution allows for differentiation.
Yes.
Differentiation in adopting those so that the states who have done well should not be penalized.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's the root, the moot, point that we're discussing today. The fact that states that have run exceptionally well on, development, they've followed all the right policy decisions, made all the right choices, and today they could possibly be penalized for having smaller populations because they've done the right thing. And that, as Dr. Singh mentioned, is the crux, and that is a decision that possibly the political leadership will have to take sometime next year, or Brijesh, the worst case scenario, kick the can further down the road. But thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us this evening. Punam Mutreja, Dr. Singh, KV Prasad, and of course my colleague Brijesh Pandey here in the studio, where we're discussing the census minefield that a 2025 population census could possibly result in.